Check, check, check. Are we ready to go live? Okay. And let's do this. Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Michael, and I'm going to be showing you how to draw today. Specifically today, we're going to learn how to come up with ideas, and then how to transform those ideas into characters. So this may be one of the more useful lessons that we've done so far. So far we've been really learning how to draw, which is obviously really important for communicating your ideas. But the other half of that is ideas. How do we get ideas? Where do they come from? How do we develop them into something that we can draw? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to be showing you some very basic techniques. We're going to walk through from literally ground zero all the way till the very end, where I'm going to create I'm going to create a number of different characters along the way, but maybe we'll try to create one relatively finished one. And I'm also going to encourage you to, whether you want to draw what I draw or to use this as an opportunity to come up with your own ideas in characters, because I think that's where things really start getting exciting and where your imagination can really just run. And you know, I know that there's lots of different people or reasons why people are taking this class. Some people just really want to learn how to draw things that they see, and they want to be able to draw a bowl of fruit or flowers or a sculpture they see on a vacation, or draw their living room so that they can rearrange the furniture in a new and interesting way. And then there's other people who really want to be able to draw stories, illustrate comics or children's books, and I don't see those things as being separate. So, you know, while one side seems like, you know, you're being very creative because you're coming up with new things, and one thing is you're just sort of drawing what you see, I think there's really important overlaps, which we'll talk about, and why I think it's useful for, regardless of what your end goal is to understand how these processes work, because they can be just as useful for drawing things that you see versus imagining things and drawing what you see in your mind. Okay, so I have at the very end of last week's class, last Thursday, we came up, or at least I was starting to brainstorm some possible ideas to help us kind of get started and to think of what our character could be. So I'm going to kind of just jump back to this list, and if you have other suggestions, we can add them to this list, and then I'll start really developing some of those ideas. And these ideas are also going to be part of our warm-up as well. So if you want to include anything, I did put a question in the comments there saying, like, what types of animals, tools, props, superhero abilities, time periods, eras, places, settings for your story, ages, all sorts of different kinds of things. So just, you know, random ideas. It's sort of like an improv game where I'm just saying, hey, okay, what is your favorite food? And people yell out into the crowd, and then we do a play based on that. Well, that's very similar to what we're going to do today. So let's look at this. This is my notes from last class, where I just at the very end started kind of coming up with some of these. And I'm going to grab a pencil here. Again, you can use color pencils like me. I like using them just for our purpose so that you can kind of see different things that I'm adding to drawings. And you can also do this in black and white. And I would suggest coming up with your own set of what do we call these, prompts, I guess. Whether you want to copy down what I've done or write some new ones, and whether you want to share them with me and everybody else or just keep them private, it's totally up to you. I'm gonna one of our students, Peter, hi Peter, he sent in like a really great full description of a character that he's already been thinking about. And that's great. I want to talk about his suggestion, or he's got like 10 different, really like a pretty focused idea of what he wants to do. So I think we'll save that to a little bit later on in the episode, because I want to, well, maybe I'll just show you, and we're going to sit here talk about something that you can't see or hear. So how about I'll just kind of show this, and then we'll talk about like how do we even get to where Peter is here. I'm on a different view. Let's pull up. Why is that? Oops. Okay, let's try that again. Okay. The best laid plans, as they say, right? Okay. So this was a comment he left on last week's episode, and kind of specific interest is this area here. I'm playing an RPG game with friends right now, and my character I'm trying to build is the following: a male in his 50s, futuristic, I think in the future 2400s, 300-400 years from now. Russian scientist with a penchant for drinking copious amounts of alcohol. He carries a scanning device like a tricorder Star Trek, has a Mickey of vodka, he's smart, computer savvy, member of the group, he wears a dirty lab coat, glasses like a Google Glass or Geordie LaForge from Star Trek, and he's overly friendly, particularly after consuming alcohol. So, I mean, this is fantastic. It sounds like you already have something pretty solid. So how do we illustrate that? So that's great. I mean, I love that you, Peter, have already done a good, solid think about this. But there's probably a number of other people out there who are just like, I don't even know how to get to where Peter is right now. How do I even imagine like a character, right? So let's go back to our kind of notes here, because right now we're just going to brainstorm, just spitball, throw ideas out here. Whether we use all of them or none of them isn't the point. It's just about starting to get that creative part of our brain going. And so last week I started off like some possible animals that we could use as the character, or inspiration from the character, because maybe we want to draw like a superhero, and we could use a dog as a prompt. Do we want to make the superhero's face, or like a half man, half dog, or half dog, half baby, or half dog, half old lady? And whether maybe it's the face is a dog, or the face is a human face but with dog legs, or see where I'm going, right? So, or it could just be it has like the personality of a dog, or a particular kind. Then we get into specific what kind of a dog, right? Because there's so many different kinds of dogs. So we'll come up with, I've got a few here. Dogs, lions, zebra. What could be another thing here? In fact, even, if you're having trouble coming up with this, we have this amazing, let me see, I'll go to, let's go to this. We'll go right to Google, right? And let's just type in animal, right? And we can look at images, right? And this is going to give us just, we got tigers, elephants. What is this? What kind of bird is that? I'm thinking of like toucan Sam or whatever from Looney Tunes, right? So we have all these different animals. So here we've got infinite number of things. We could even kind of go back to, animal list, right? Look at that. It's already probably the first thing that comes up. And you can look for images. It's a little too detailed, but, or rather than just image version here, again, these are just random things that I'm pulling up on the web here. Our list, oh, here we go, finally. So, I mean, like this, look how detailed this is, right? So think of all of the, I don't know how many thousands, I mean, this is just A and B here, and look at all of these things. Buttermilk snake, never heard of half of these things. So, or bush pig, or bush buck. Well, I gotta see what a bush buck is. Oh, okay, so kind of a deer. Right, so let's just write bush buck, right? I mean, that kind of already sounds like some kind of a superhero, bush buck. The Amazing Adventures of Bush Buck. Okay, so we could do that, and let's do tools. Tool list. Yeah, it's saw, hammer, mirror, rake, ladder. You know, rake. Wheelbarrow, chisel, pliers, tape measure. I mean, on and on and on, right? So we can do all sorts of things from here. Then we go to, like, say, abilities. Oops. Super abilities list, right? So all this work has kind of been done for us. So I think it's helpful just to kind of see that you can, you know, I could have come up with more of these things on my own, but part of what I'm trying to do with these classes is to show you from scratch how I would find information and how I would go about doing this from scratch, right? So, you know, look at all, I mean, power augmentation. I don't even know what that would be. Power negation, power erasure. So you take somebody's powers, you give people powers, you give other people more powers. You could detect people's powers. I mean, invisibility, deflection, bone manipulation, camouflage. So many different things here. Did I see poison fog somewhere? Stench generation. Oh, my wife would say I'm pretty good at doing that. Fire breath. Right, so, I mean, there's lots of things we could add for this. Let's add stench generation. Okay, era. I mean, era. That's, you can pretty much just roll a dice and you just start coming up with numbers for, you know, the date that your story could take place in. Right? Is it today? Is it in the past or in the future? What else? Places. You know, we could just go. Let's just go map. Google Maps. Let's even what would be a map of. Let's see, image. Besides Google Maps, just something. You know, we can then jump in here. Oh, of course, this is going to take us to buy something, right? When I'm looking for images, just as a reminder, I always go here to Tools, Size, Large, and this is going to guarantee that if I click on one of these, and I'd say want to drag it to my desktop, I'm going to get something. Here we are, nice and big. Right, so, I mean, you could take something like this, and let's see, where am I? You know, if I was trying to come up with this idea, I could literally just close my eyes, roll my, you know, besides throwing something at the computer screen, and then let's say stop. Where is my cursor here? Oh, it's not even on there. Let's move it here again. Oh, so China. That's where I landed. Or I think I was even closer to Tajikistan or Nepal. I think I was somewhere in here, right? So that could be where the story takes place or where my character's from, right? So if I'm trying to invent something totally random, then that's an option. Or I could use my imagination or use something from, and by, sorry, imagination, I mean like I invent something, literally a planet bleep blarp in the blurlarp system, right? And then I have full reign to imagine anything. It doesn't have to exist within our world. It could be the opposite world of our world. And the other thing, it could be based on my own personal experience, right? My story could be about me in my taking place today, but maybe instead of using me, I tell the story through a character I invent who, again, is a talking dog or looks like me, but anyway, we can go on and on, right? So the more ideas that we put down here, even if they're random, it's sort of like the first few marks. Something's fallen somewhere. It's like the first few marks on a drawing, right? They seem kind of arbitrary and random, but then they start we can build from them. They give us a place to start, right? And even if we want to do something opposite from there, it's a place maybe to react against. Because then you could say, well, I wrote down dogs, but I definitely do not want to do something dog related. Well, that's actually important to know, because if I don't want to do anything dog related, then that kind of closes off a number of options, right? And it can help simplify and clarify our ideas. Okay, so let's let me get my sketchbook back up here, and where's that view? Okay, so let's start now. We're gonna do a little warm up, and we're going to start drawing. So let's just say, for the sake of things today, I found this bush buck. I'm just gonna, since I mentioned it, bush buck. I think Palash said in her comment there, hammer. So I'm gonna add hammer here, and that's good because I actually have a hammer we can use. Hammer, invisibility, stench generation, just because I think it's kind of funny, and it's great to be able to have a little fun while you're drawing too, right? We'll get to some of these other, maybe a little more specific things here in a moment, but let's, in fact, let me grab my hammer, and okay. So here's a hammer, and you can see it's a well-used hammer. FYI, I like to spray paint my tools, so that if they get misplaced or lost, or I'm doing some kind of project and I'm at a art gallery, museum or something, and I bring my own tools and everything gets mixed up, I can just, I'm like, oh, this one's mine, right? Put it back in my bag or tool box, right? Okay, so let's start out, and we'll do this as a warm-up. I'm going to draw this hammer. Now, the easiest thing, obviously, I could do is just to kind of trace around this hammer. If you have objects in your house, they're nice and small, like what are some other things? I've got like a lens cap, I've got pencil, what else could I throw on here? I use this for strengthening my hand for drawing, all right, because you need some strength for spending all this time drawing. Okay. But you can use those to study from, rather than just looking at images on the web. But let's let me see. I'm going to make another view here with a little bit more room for this hammer. So how would I draw this hammer just to get for our warm-up? Okay, so let's look for, let's say I'm going to put this right in the middle of the page. So maybe even just to begin with, to help me kind of get started, we're just going to do a little T shape here. Right, so this is how I want everything to fit on there. This is kind of like drawing the stick figure of your character, right? So let's say, so if this is, now let's kind of look for another shape. This is the main shape inside here. All right, now let's put another shape for this. And here's the front part of the hammer. And then we're going to draw this. All right. For this kind of thing, I'm not too worried or concerned about like total accuracy, but so let's just say I'm going to draw the handle straight down, right? And then I'm just going to move this up so you can see kind of the shape. And you see the hammer kind of comes in and out and back in a bit. So when I know that, I can kind of, let's say I'm going to do one side comes in and out. I'm just going to exaggerate it so that you can see. Now I'm going to draw the other side. Okay. So now that I'm going to start maybe refining this shape just a little bit. We got this hammer and it kind of comes up. Maybe I'm just going to lengthen it a bit, right? Come up and over. So you see how I've changed the like putting those kind of placeholders was helpful for me just to kind of see, you know, the overall size of this object. And then I look down here and I'm like, well, you know, maybe that was a little silly going so exaggerate. So I'm just gonna, you know, rein myself in a little bit. But there, I've got a hammer. And there was sort of like, okay. I'm not worried about the shadows at all for here, but okay. So, at this point, I'm going to keep the hammer here. Maybe I was going to move it away for a second, but then I think, you know, some of these textures, the way that the wood or the paint is sort of chipped off a little bit, you know, this is a well-worn hammer. So maybe I can use this idea of this worn hammer for my character and turn it into, you know, like an old scruffy kind of character. Okay. You know, I guess the other thing too, here I am talking and I'm fumbling with it, and there's something, whatever it is that you use to create a character, if it's something you can actually hold, it's just something about it that makes it, gives us that emotional, physical connection to it, rather than just looking at images on the web. So if you can find something like that, I think that is also really helpful. Okay, so this is the beginning of our first character, and I will just move that off to a second here. I'm gonna regret having stench generation. Hammer, bushbuck. So, you know, I can think now, I'm just brainstorming, so let's just think, like, what are the qualities of a hammer? Qualities of a hammer are, you know, I guess heavy. If you have ideas, put them in the comments there. You know, it's heavy, it's solid, right? Again, that's why it's nice to be able to hold this. You know, you don't really want a really, really light hammer because it needs to be able, it's got, you know, solid, you know, it's got weight to it. I don't know if that's spelt right, but that's how I'm writing it. Heavy, solid, you know, it's sort of like single purpose, right? It's not many things you can do with a hammer besides hammer nails, right? We can, I mean, although I guess you could use it as a paperweight or a murder weapon or a bottle opener, maybe. I mean, I'd have to think about, but for really, a hammer has very few extra uses. Single purpose, you know, it's inflexible, right? So already, you know, I could keep on going down on this list, and if you have other ideas, just let me know. But already, can you see how this could already tell us a little bit about the personality of this character, right? That it's, you know, probably somebody really solidly built, like a muscle-bound guy, right? And I just feel it's like kind of a masculine kind of thing, or you're like, oh, guy, we're hitting with a hammer, right? Solid. You know, might lend to their superhero ability being like super strong. It has a harder head than the handle. I like that. That's great. Thanks, Peter. A harder head than handle. And so this kind of goes to this idea of being like inflexible. You know, it's like somebody, you know, those people who are like, you know, I've made up my mind. Nope, that's it. This is the decision. We are going to the grocery store and then we're going home. I don't care if we pass the gas station. I've decided we're going only to the grocery store, right? And everyone's like, ugh, why can't we just... Nope, that's the decision I've made. We're gonna... So somebody who's inflexible and hard-headed, right? So, you know, has a single purpose. You know, maybe that's somebody who's like really focused. They're like, my purpose in life is to save, you know, we can go back to stench generation. You know, so this is, you know, stench generation is to save bad smells. You know, we could turn this into a funny character, but think about it as like, maybe this is a story in the future where smells are outlawed, right? So let's just come up here. So we got, so we're already now coming up with this place, right? So place is, I guess it's the future where smells are outlawed, you know. And so this character is, whether it's because they have a lot of gas and they're farting and that's why they're generating smells, or because they see it as some sort of, either they're like a kind of rebel that is going around releasing smells back into the world in a scentless world, and it's opening people's noses and eyes to being oppressed in some way, or they are, you know, it's, we can think of move. There's so many, you know, like was it Footloose? Was it Footloose or Dirty Dancing? Which Kevin Bacon film is it where he's, you know, the town doesn't let people dance, right? But, you know, you think like, how serious or ridiculous do you want to make this? Like, one option is to turn this into a children's story where there's this, you know, grouch who lives in a garbage can, who wants to make the world really smelly, you know. Or again, we could turn it into a much more serious story where, you know, this takes place, you know, in the future, where we've solved all of the problems of like garbage and waste management, and people don't know what dirty, rotten smells smell like anymore, which sounds like great in some ways, but maybe that also means that we can't taste, you know, really good desserts anymore because our nose is connected to our sense of taste, right? So maybe we no longer, so we're just eating oatmeal every day and everything is totally bland, and this superhero or villain is going to try to you know, reawaken this lost sense. And so imagine what that would be like in the world, living in a world that had no smells or senses, and then you're walking down the street one day, and then all of a sudden you smell this smell, and oh, it's so gross, oh, and then you realize it's flowers, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize those smelled, and there's some, anyway, so again, you can see how quickly a story can kind of generate from even the most ridiculously mundane things like a hammer and some of these things, right? So we've got stench generation is the superpower. Or their obsession. Again, we can think of like how that could work in their stench generation. And you know, I said right off the top that this was a hammer is a very masculine thing. Well, I don't know, maybe that's just my own weird preconceived notions of things. So let's invert it. Let's turn this into a female character. So that, because it's what I think part of what you want to do as an artist is to challenge people's preconceived notions, right? So if everybody immediately thinks of a hammer as being a masculine thing, well, then let's flip it. And then immediately we're creating something a little bit more interesting and innovative, right? So I don't think we need that hammer taking up so much space anymore. So let's a female. Well, maybe we can decide as to the age and all that stuff as we go here. Okay, so now I've got ideas, I've got a shape. Let's now start to kind of play with this hammer image, right? So, okay, so what we want to do is how can we're going to draw this hammer in many different ways. We're going to stretch it, and we're going to shrink parts, maybe eliminate things altogether. Maybe all we end up with is the texture on the hammer as part of like their, raggedy Walking Dead kind of world, right? Where everything is in tatters and, Mad Max kind of environment. Or that's their costume, whereas everything else is super, super clean. Like, if that's already a totally different world than Blade Runner and Mad Max, right, where everything is dirty and noirish, what if this story took place in a totally, white antiseptic that's like a cleaner than an operating room at the hospital, right? It's like the Apple Store or something. Everything is just super clean and organized, nothing is out of place, and then this person wanders in with this clothes and dust and things coming off it. Imagine how shocking that would be for people. Okay, so let's we've got our sketch of the hammer, and by the way, you can see how this is working. If you want to use these ideas for your own. If you want to take this and develop it into a big Hollywood film, just give me whatever 10. I'm going to start negotiating here. 12% of the box office receipts. Okay, so let's go back to this hammer here and how we can kind of draw a little bit of from it. So let's start. We're going to draw it again. This time I'm going to try to draw faster because these are sketches. So we got one like this. Okay. Move it out of the way. Okay, so what are some of the natural, and in fact, I'm going to set a timer here. Gotta moth in the studio. Where's my clock here? So what I like to do is I like setting, you've watched this before, you've seen me use my timer. I'm going to say, let's say 2 minutes. So I'm going to try to come up with as many characters as possible, and I'm going to limit myself to only 2 minutes per character so that I'm focused on moving forward and generating ideas and not about getting perfect here. Okay, so let's start 2 minutes. How can I fit that on here? Okay, so what could we do with this one here? Let's say this is a nose of some kind, right? Kind of like the thumbnail that I drew before. So this is, what is this? This is like an ear here, right? So here's this is a nose, mouth, this is the head, and then we have this body. Here's hands, leg. Here. Right, minute. I'm going to move on. Let's try to get another one done here. So let's say I'm going to start again, hammer. What else could this be? Let's turn it around where this is, you know, this is like a hair, you know, like on somebody's head. And this, what could this be? This is, rather than a nose, this is, or maybe it is some kind of a nose device. I don't know what it does, but let's just say it's some kind of goggles, you know, like a World War I kind of outfit. Okay, and again we have body here. They're carrying some kind of a suitcase with their secret weapon that emits smoke. Okay, here, 2 seconds. Let's start it again. Can't remember how to make that thing repeat endlessly. Okay, what is, let's just take the hammer and flip it upside down here. So if you're watching right now, you're certainly welcome to sketch around with me. It'd be funny to see what you do in the same position. Let's say I'm going to do the hammer this way. What would be another way? Let's do this. Okay, so instead of, let's say this is their legs somehow. How could this be? This is some kind of I'm drawing here like a jet ski machine. Right, and this character is riding this machine. So the hammer is actually a machine that this character that she's riding on. What is this got, like wheels on it, or it flies? I don't know. What kind of hair should she have? Let's see. This one got curly hair. In here, what could this be? Okay, let's say here's the face, and then this is some sort of, I don't know, exhaust system. This is a helmet of some kind here I'm developing. Okay, so I don't know how this works here, but again, I'm trying to develop. Let's see, would there be 2 spikes? Maybe this comes around on the other side as well. Right, I'm just trying to, I want to keep moving forward here. Let's try to get as many things on here as possible. What would be, how could we turn this into another part of body? Let's say this is this round part of the head, and then let's say the body, and I don't know, it's some kind of a slug, like maybe they're everybody. We live in a world where you know, everyone is so weak they don't have to walk anywhere, so we're kind of a slug-like form, and then but we have these backpacks that we carry that have, I don't know, some kind of, you know, tubes that go into this mask. Right, so these are arms holding a backpack that is, you know, some sort of filtration device. I've got 39 seconds. What else can I do here? Hammer. Let's see if we can play with this hammer thing. So we can start exaggerating from the hammer, right? So here's the, you know, I can take the front of this hammer, put it on the top and the sides, and then we can use the, this is for like legs. So maybe this could inform her costume or something, right? She's got her hands under here. Okay, so you could see in that, what I spent maybe 5-6 minutes on this, and I've got a bunch of different sketches, lots of different ideas. I've got like a mask idea. This would be if I wanted to turn the face into kind of a cartoony kind of thing, which I could, but let's say I want to use sort of what we've been working on. Oh, you can incorporate a nail. I like that, Peter. That's a great idea. You know, so maybe let's say this is a nail as a sword, or nail as a bent nail as some kind of a cane. And whether or not I end up making a cane or a sword, it doesn't have to look like a nail, just as it like this idea of incorporating a nail rather than having a gun. You know, I always, whenever I'm doing this with characters, I always try to encourage people not to use guns, or even try to avoid weapons, really, because I just think it's kind of such an easy thing to go to. And I'm a small child, and I was thinking about, like, oh, man, there's so much violent imagery out there. If I want to use my imagination to be a little bit more creative, to come up with something more complicated. You know, it's not easy, but it's possible, right? Right, like in this story that I'm coming up with this smell-generating character, whether just, you know, a suitcase that makes smell could be a weapon, right? We don't think of a suitcase per se as a weapon. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to now take these sketches. For instance, I'm teaching a class very similar to this, or that would incorporate this process in about a month from now at the university I teach at. And one of the things I ask students to do, we spend a whole week, like a whole class, just doing this. you know, doing hundreds and hundreds of little quick sketches. Even if you know right off the top that this is what your character wants to be, because I see this happen. Students will draw this and are like, this is what I want to do. This is the character. I'm like, okay, that's great. I want to see 99 other ideas or possibilities. And they're like, oh, God. Right? Like, oh, that's the worst possible idea it could ever. But maybe you come, after 99 other ideas, you come back to this one. But maybe along the way, you're going to pick up some new ideas, and then this is going to change. Or maybe by doing this, you come up with the villains or the other people in the village or spaceship or underwater community that they live in. And so it's just about, you know, playing with your idea, starting to stretch it and mold it and see what we can do from it. Okay, so all of these are different possibilities. Where should I go for the character I want to work with? Well, I think I'm going to take a couple. There's something about this outfit. I kind of liked this outfit with the, you know, kind of like giant, like big, like almost like shoulder pads kind of thing, or bicep pads, or something about that kind of appealed to me. It kind of looks like you know, those old Dutch paintings of, you know, people with those ridiculous kind of fluffy rings around their neck, or whatever those things could be called. Amy says the nail could be a knitting needle. I like that too, right? So just that prompt of a nail can start moving us in new directions, right? So maybe it's not a nail, but it's a toothpick. Maybe the character is always chewing on a toothpick or a blade of grass, or maybe their name is Nail, right? Like there's a hockey player, Nail Yakupov, right? That's what that comes to mind. Or that's their saying, you know, like, nailed it. You gotta hit the hammer around the head. You know, like maybe you can see that could be their catchphrase, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back, or, you know, funny kind of puns that tend to be in comics or movies, right? So I like these shoulder pads here. I kind of something about the helmet. I think we need, if this is, maybe they need some kind of a helmet or not. I gotta have to think about that. It's some kind of disguise, this backpack idea that is giving them fuel. This idea of the slithery legs, maybe that could be in the bad guy, like a Jabba the Hutt kind of thing. Some kind of motorized machine, possibly. I don't like the idea of a briefcase, seems kind of silly. Maybe it could be incorporated into the backpack, like Ghostbusters kind of thing, you know, like those, whatever they, I don't even know what they had on their backpack that shot out, I don't know what, electricity or something. But something like that shoots out. Okay, so we've got these ideas. I'm going to go to another page here. And we're going to kind of go back a little bit in time to, where is it, my drawings? Oops, I'll just kind of, those of you that are just haven't seen any of these episodes, this is what we did a few weeks ago. Right, we're coming up with female characters. All right. So let's kind of, if we think about, I'm going to create a female hero here. Like, as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, man, there's a lot of potential in this story, right? And this is not me being a genius or something, but it's just sitting with an idea and ruminating and thinking, like, where could we go? Like, okay, so let's move this out of the way. Let's do a quick refresher on how to draw a simple female figure. I'm going to start by dividing the page in half. All right? I'm going to give a little border for myself in the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to divide this in half. And then in half again. And then in half again. And again. And again. And again. So this is going to be our 7.5 head tall figure, right? And if you, I'm not sure what episode that was that we did. This is probably going back to May when I showed people how to do this. There's a whole episode on drawing the female figure, but let's just, as a quick review, I'm going to draw the head in here. Oh, you know, it just reminds me, while I'll chat, I can only do one thing at once here if I'm going to teach this. Do I want to, okay, well, let's finish this lesson and all this kind of, okay. So we talked about doing 2 heads, dividing each in half, and that's going to tell us kind of how wide this figure is here for the torso. Halfway through here between, oh, I forgot to label these, so I'm going to X that out. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is the middle. 5, 6, 7. Right, and this, the male, heroic male figure is 8 heads tall. So we're not drawing, we're doing a female figure. It's a little bit shorter. Okay, so the torso is in here, and then here's the belly button, right on line number 3. All right, and we can even just kind of do a little bit of a line here, just to kind of think about like the torso and the so-called hourglass kind of shape. This is where our shoulder joints are going to be. And we can have our neck here. Okay, maybe, I'm not sure how quickly I should do this for anybody who's following along. Okay. Or let's say I'm gonna draw the arms out just a little bit so that I have room to kind of play with this costume here. So if this was coming down here, we would see, you know, the wrists would actually be a little bit higher on the female figure. So if we think of this as kind of like an arc, right? And the elbows are sort of almost kind of, there would be about a little bit halfway, so we're just going to kind of bring these up here. Okay, so we think of this, hands. Okay, here's kind of the little sausage shapes here for the bicep and then the forearm. And this is also a good level of detail, like especially when I'm just coming up with the character. I want to not put too much energy into drawing the most realistic thing possible. Okay. The knees are kind of a little bit, kind of between 5 and 6. Not right in the middle, a little bit further down. This is our feet pointing out to the sides. And here's the calf muscles. And then we've got these legs. Okay. And then the chest up here. How large of a chest do you want to give your character? Now, we've done faces and stuff, so we're not going to go back there, but... Okay, so, let's think about giving our character a costume here. So I liked these shoulder pad things. I'm going to draw... I'll draw in blue here. So, how can we make this work? Where should... Maybe this... And I don't know why... I guess this is just a callback to that. They kind of look like water wings on a... maybe they should be high... Maybe they need to be higher here, shoulder, rather than just on the biceps. Maybe that's better. Something like that. Like their shoulder, these crazy shoulder pads. Okay. Maybe I'll get rid of... Or maybe I'll keep these. I was going to say I'm going to get my eraser out, but let's just say that this is part of it somehow. In fact, let's keep on going with it. Let's embrace this so-called mistake, and let's just, like a jazz musician, just keep going back to that note. So this is her outfit. Maybe I'll make them a little bit smaller. It's kind of like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, speaking of Ghostbusters, right? So this is this outfit. Okay. So I'm just gonna, I'm thinking like, here's my costume. What other characteristics can I use here? You know what, let's, I'm gonna make another timer for myself. Let's say, I wanna get as much done here in 6 minutes, just to keep this train a-rolling. Okay. I don't know why these pads are useful in any way. I feel like if she's got all this stuff up here, then maybe she needs something on her legs too. How many of these do we want to put in here? Knee pads. Maybe just a few more on her calves. Okay, this is going to continue this up here. Okay. So, 4.5 minutes. Now, is this the costume everybody on this planet, or assuming it takes place on Earth, wears, or is this something only she wears that she built in her workshop, or that she stolen from some evil corporation or government agency? I feel like maybe these are some kind of breathing sacs that help her either generate the smells, or maybe they protect her from something. I don't know, gotta think about it. Okay. Anyway, do I want to have any kind of what kind of, do I want to, anything on her costume, like okay, let's go back to this designs here with these from the hammer. Could we have something? this look like some kind of beast, satanic kind of thing? I don't know. Maybe they don't need to be coming straight out to the sides. Maybe she's got... These are... something like this. And she's got these for eyes. Something like that. Maybe she's got a backpack here, I think, of some kind that we can't quite see. Maybe, I don't know. Let's, again, we don't have to, it doesn't, let's say, this is, putting all this starts looking like a bit of a Rob Liefeld character. If you know of Image Comics, back in the day, Rob Liefeld was a comic book artist. He's still around, but very famous for adding pockets and like cargo pants stuff all over things. So, okay, let's see. I got like a minute left on here. Let's just let's try to avoid just going directly to the pink here. I'm just randomly putting color on here. Again, doing this thing where we're moving quickly is helpful to help. Like, if I do this and then I realize, you know what, it was pretty stupid to use this blue, I should have used a different color. Well, it's not too hard to change the color of something, but it helps kind of, now I know, do I want it to be kind of this checker pattern? What could be another, we got this kind of a dark color. So that's 6 minutes. Okay. Do I want to keep that white? Or maybe go for just a slightly different blue here? I don't know. It's, you know, if I put too much color in, I can always, because I'm going to redraw this a number of times, maybe not today. But, okay, so here would be the first steps of this character. Now, on Thursday, what we're going to do is we're going to take this character and we're going to draw it from, how many sides should we do? We're going to do what's called a character turnaround. And usually, do I have an action figure? Let's see. This is the Anubis figure. One of the ears broke off here. I got this at the Royal Ontario Museum in Ottawa, or Toronto. And an arm broke off. Anyway, so to do a turnaround, let's say we want to turn this into a character, right? The whole idea of a turnaround is drawing it from many different angles so we can figure out what it looks like from those different angles. So that ultimately, if you wanted to turn this into, let's say, an animated movie or even a comic book children's book, the more that you've thought this through before you even begin it, the easier it's going to be, because then you don't have to think like, oh wow, I've figured out my character looks awesome from the front, but now that I think about it, what does it look like from the side? Right? Like, so for instance, let's say I go with this and I'm super pumped with this. Now, do these horns, are they sticking, let's say, straight out, or do they go back like a hammer? Or are these circular things like flush up against the face, or do they stick forward? You know, so part of what so next class, we're going to do a character turnaround, and I'm going to show you how we take this. We're going to draw the figure from a few different angles, and that just helps us kind of work through some of these problems. So I think we'll do, let's say, we'll probably do the front, a 3/4, a side, and then reverse. Like a real turnaround in like an animation studio would have even more steps. Like, we'd really kind of draw all around, including the top and the bottom, so that you could literally turn it over to a whole different group of people that are in a different country on the other side of the world. And if you gave them their a turnaround that has, let's say, 6 different views, they have all the information they need to execute your idea, right? Because they're like, oh, okay, this is what it looks like from the front, and when the character turns a little bit, that's what they look like from, so on and so forth. And again, I've done this. I've taught animation students how to do this, and it's clearly important for animation because you're drawing characters from all sorts of different sides, or you're building them in the computer, and you really need to be able to rotate it around and make sure it's convincing from all those different sides. But I've also shown like fine art students how to do this, right? Students who think like, oh, that's so design or animation, like I just want to be a fine artist. Well, you know, let's say you want to do a figurative painting like Raphael's The School of Athens. Right? It's kind of a random thing here. Let's say, So this is a famous painting that's in the Vatican museums in Vatican City in the center of Rome. And I don't know how, this is by Raphael. I don't know how he would have gone about doing this. Let me see. But this idea is, this is all of the famous philosophers and teachers, thinkers that lived in Athens, you know, around, well, I mean, I think so not all people lived in the same period of time, but people that were, because some of these people, I think he's got Homer and a few other people. Maybe Galileo might even be in here, who wasn't, you know, lived 500 years past that. But it's intended just to be all the intellectuals from classical times. Anyway, when Raphael was doing this, and I don't know exactly how he would have done it, but he would have done a rudimentary version of the turnaround. Because let's say he's drawing this figure, he wants to be able to draw this figure from different angles, because maybe this first sketch was more like this guy looking towards the viewer, or looking away, or right. So the more options that he would have had, so he's probably drawing from life, the easier it would be to then sit down and compose this image, because he's got it all kind of figured out. He's got all the different possibilities on the page. So ultimately, these kind of what we're doing is time consuming to start, but then ultimately saves you tons of time later on. Okay, so let's say we're gonna keep this character Nail. How could you write? So I'm just thinking, like, maybe this is our character's name is Nail, like I just or Nelly. Let's think about how could you write that Nail. Maybe that's her real name. Nail the. Oh, sorry. I don't know what she'll be, but you know, there's that book there's the Nirvana song "Scentless Apprentice" that's based on Patrick Susskind's book Perfume. Great book, by the way. All those ideas of smells or no smells, all those things kind of scentless, or Perfume is sort of the opposite of this story, where it's about 20 years ago I read that book. It's about a child or a girl who can't smell or has no smell. It's been a long time. Okay, so I think this gives you an idea of how we can generate a character. I could do this again and again and again, starting from scratch, but I think you would be a little bit belaboring the point. So maybe to finish, because if you have done a drawing that's different than what we've just done today, I would love to see it. If you want to upload it to my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the links are in the description below, and you can tag me in there, or you can send it to me as a direct message, and then I can give you a little bit of feedback now or during next class. So if you've drawn this character, or you've taken the prompts of the hammer and developed a different looking character, that would be cool to see. I would love to see both of those options. Or if you've just gone in a totally different direction and created something. Now maybe you're thinking like, oh, I've done a genius thing, and I don't want somebody out there stealing my idea and coming and making billions of dollars. Well, I mean, here I've just thrown something out there, and I'm not too worried about somebody taking this character. But the other thing to think about is, I see the world as a world of like abundance, of like limitless possibilities and of ideas and options. So I'm not worried about that happening. And if anything, if let's say somebody did make $1 billion and a whole movie franchise based on this, there would be, you know, actual documentation of when I came up with this idea, just like if you submitted your thing right now. But again, this is all just about generating ideas. And if you've come up with something that has that potential, then good. That would make me super happy. Again, it would give me my 12%, and then I'll be really happy. Okay. Oops, I just lost a camera battery here. So give me 1 second just to quickly replace this. Focus. Okay, so let's go now. Peter had sent in his was this, did I show this on screen, the School of Athens, so people could actually see it, or was I just babbling on? You never know with me what you're gonna get, do you? Okay, so Peter's whole thing here. So I'm going to take a stab at drawing Peter's idea. Let's see, I'm going to bring up Sketchbook. Just so we can kind of again, let's say I'm going to come up with, well, I'm going to write down the key things that I'm going to take away from so age 50, Russian scientist, alcohol, drinks alcohol, scanning device, he's smart, how do you write savvy? Oh, dirty lab coat, glasses, okay, so these are my prompts to create this character. So, and I don't know, based on this story, you know, how realistic, you know, he says it's for his RPG game. You know, does that mean you want it to be, you know, like this could be a character that, I don't know, George Clooney dresses up as, and is in a live action film, or is this going to be for a cartoon that we could, you know, some Shrek-like character? And not that I even need you to answer right now, Peter. I'm sure you probably have a clearer idea, but while I'm coming up with these ideas, I want to be as open and flexible as possible. So let's just say I'm going to start over. Let's say I'm just going to give myself 6 minutes here, right? And I'm going to come up with as many things as possible. And I'm also going to play around. This is something we haven't really talked about, but, you know, just different kinds of scales. So I'm already just starting to kind of draw out different shapes of body shapes. Okay, that's probably good enough to get me started here. So he's got glasses, so we know that these okay, and each one here I'm just going to, let's say he's got big glasses here. These ones are little, he's got big eyes, but oh, you said kind of like Geordie LaForge kind of thing. Or what could be, how else could we draw? Glasses. I don't know. As I think they can repeat, obviously, right? So we've got glasses here. We could give him, you know, a bit of a receding hairline, or we give him kind of like, you know, what is it? Albert Einstein, crazy wild hair. Maybe he's got longer hair. Maybe he's got, I don't know, a man bun of some kind. Or maybe he's got, what's another type of, maybe he got some kind of comb over or something going on. Okay. Maybe he's got, what kind of nose? So right now I'm just thinking of different types of kind of almost like a cartoon character. I've got 3 minutes left on my clock here. Let me see, he's got this dirty lab coat. Or how can we draw a lab coat that is, as I'm doing this, thinking like, how could it get, maybe he's got the sleeves rolled up. Like, how can this guy, how can we, how, I'm trying to think of like, how can we play around with the lab coat style here? Dirty lab coat. Dirty lab coat. I can't, as I'm drawing this, think of maybe this one is really way too big, and maybe it's because it's so big it drags around on the floor. And he's got his little hands sticking out the top here. And he's got his little legs under there. What else? This is, he's got, maybe he's got this lab coat. It's got huge pens and stuff in here. It's just like weighing him down, maybe. So then he would have like a, he'd be hunched over. So maybe he needs a cane of some kind. So you can see these sketches, I got a minute left, are very quick. I'm working through my ideas here. I'm not concerned about making things look cool in any way whatsoever. Let's say he's got a long nose and or he's got, this is a big wide neck. He really fills this jacket out. It's bursting at the seams. I could have put a button in here. And okay. Oh yeah, he drinks a lot too. Computer savage, lab coat, alcohol, future. Or maybe one of these, he's got his flask somewhere. Okay, so that's an hour. Okay, so now let's take this idea of the, I'm going to develop this character here. Let's say I'm going to put 10 more minutes on the clock. We're going to end up here in, I'll wind up in 10 minutes. We'll be totally done. So I'm going to draw this here. So let's, instead of a 8-head tall figure, let's go for something totally different, because let's try to play with things here. I like this guy. So let's just imagine a guy with a ridiculously big head. And then this is going to be the rest of his body here, right? So he's got this. This is his head. Let's say this is his torso. And here's his legs. And just for the sake here, we're going to put in this funny nose I just drew in here as a cartoon. got maybe these glasses. And, oh, he's got this long hair. And lab coat. I like this lab coat that drags around because he's drinks too much, so he's walking on it and tripping all over it, and it's getting dirty. This pocket protector, pens, dirty glass lab coat, smart scanning. Oh, he's got a scanning device. I forgot the scanning device, which is kind of like a flip phone, I guess, right? Okay. I got 7.5 minutes here, so let's start putting some color on it. So I got his glasses, so I'm just gonna circular glasses, and that symmetry obviously are the easiest. So this is a bit of a silly kind of cartoon character, right? But I think all of the kind of things that we've learned so far can kind of still apply here. Now, this is just a stylistic thing, his nose kind of pointing to the side. This is something you see in cartoons all the time. You know, somebody appearing there, we see the side of their nose even when they're looking to the front, like The Simpsons does that. Okay, he's got this hair, maybe. Do I want to give him... I'm thinking to myself, like, do I want to give him a mustache or a beard in order to make him look more masculine? He's an older guy, right? So we need maybe some bags under his eyes, wrinkles on his forehead. Maybe we'll give him some... Since he drinks a lot, we'll give it some bags under his eyes. Some stubble. I got 5 minutes remaining here. Okay, it's all kind of tatters. What kind of pants should this guy have? Or shirt. I feel like we should have some kind of logo or something on here that would define who he is. He's gonna have a bit of a red nose, right? Right, so this is, you know, his cheeks are a little red because he drinks a bit. All right, face is all flushed. I think when you're making like any kind of drawing, it's the best place to be is when you're laughing at what you're creating, because it's getting sillier and sillier, right? So let's see, he's holding this thing, right? Tricorder. I can't really remember what the tricorder, I just feel like it reminds me of one of those old flip phones, right? Let's put a little. I don't know what would be on his shirt, but all right, okay. Cliches of this would just be some kind of tattered, you know, patches and stuff. So this is the inside of the, or the back side of the jacket behind his legs. I've got 2 minutes remaining here. What else do I want to draw? I think I've kind of covered everything in here. Obviously I had no idea that I was going to draw this today. And I could have gone with any of these other ones. Why did I choose this guy over this guy or this guy? I mean, I actually really like the way this turned out. It looks pretty silly. I mean, I guess maybe I started thinking I want to draw this just because I've, you know, so far in many of the drawings we've done have been still fairly normal, right? Like when we were drawing like superheroes, everything tended to be much more you know, adhering to the basic human proportions, right? Whereas I guess I was thinking, like, why don't we take the baby kind of proportions and then explode them and use them for to create a character, something that was even more ridiculous than possible. But that's the way it goes. Like when you're kind of working with an idea and you keep on kind of playing with it, often eventually you're going to throw enough ideas out onto the page that something sticks and grabs your attention. I mean, I'm sure, you know, I don't know if Peter, if you're drawing along and you're coming up with your own character, if you would have come up with something totally different than this. But that would be really interesting if everybody sat down and tried to come up with something like that. Okay, so that's my 10 minutes on that drawing. Okay, so I don't know about you, but I am in need of some kind of a snack. Feeling a little hungry, worked up a little bit of an appetite. So I'm going to leave it at that. I don't think anyone sent in any images for me to review, but I would strongly encourage you to spend a little bit of time with this today or over the next couple days. Try to develop your own character. If you want to share those with me, I would love to see it. Maybe, you know, I'm totally happy doing character turnarounds for Nael, and Peter's character, so that you can kind of see what doing a maybe so-called more realistic character versus more of a cartoon character could look like on Thursday. If this class has been helpful and you've enjoyed it, I would appreciate your support by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, hit the little notification bell so that you'll know when upcoming videos are posted. So when you log on to YouTube, sign in, it'll tell you, oh, this in 3 hours, the next video is coming. And when I start teaching the painting class in September, I think is when we'll start that, September, October, you'll be able to tune in and watch that as well if you've gotten inspired from learning all this drawing. You want to start making some paintings. And also, there's links to my PayPal below if you're interested in making a small or medium or large donation to the channel. Everything that you see around me, all of this wood and the time that I've used to construct it and the cameras have all been provided by viewers like you, as PBS likes to say, right? So I need to put in some sort of thank you somewhere here to all the generous donors there's 6 people who've donated $100 or more to the channel. So thank you for supporting me and my work here, and ultimately my family as well. So, and of course, there's been lots of people who've given $1, right? And those mean just as much, because it means that you're serious about supporting the channel. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. I'd love to see your drawing, and send me them through the links that are below in the description. What else do I think you're probably pretty sick of hearing me talk. So I think we'll just leave it at that. Right? Oh, that's another angle you didn't see. There you go. Okay. Have a nice day, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday.